Welcome to another episode of Football Corner Pod, wherein we talk about all things football. I am Hari Keshav, and with me is my trusted friend and co founder of the channel, Amog.
Hi,
Hello,
hi,
Amog.
hi, Hari. How are you?
And also, I'm fine, Amog. How are you? How have you been? All good. Chelsea didn't play in the midweek, so your mental health must be doing really well
It
this week.
starts in 1 hour now.
Fair. And also, we have with us today a very special guest, a diehard Everton fan, Sudhanva. Welcome and nice to have you on the pod as well, Sudhanva.
Hello, both of you, and I'm really glad to be talking about Everton with a lot of frustration over the last few years. And I'm looking forward to sharing what I feel about the club. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Sudhanva. It is a real pleasure to have you on our podcast. So, in this episode, we will be hearing from Sudhanva regarding the state of matters at the Everton Football Club. As you all know, the start of the season for the Toffees has been anything but sweet, and we will delve into the happenings on the blue side of Merseyside. So, please note that we have recorded this podcast before Everton have played Leicester. So, the mood of Sudhanva could change after this podcast, and if things go well, we will also hear from him again very soon on the podcast. As always, before we delve into the podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. As I said, your feedback and your support on our first episode was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for all of that. And please, we would love to have your continued support as it means the world to us. Let's now dive into the episode itself. Sudhanva, before we start, a lot of friends were asking me when I talked about having an Everton fan from India. So, how is it to be an Everton fan from India, and how did this all come about? Could you also give some insights as to how big the support is for Everton Football Club back home in India?
Yeah. As you all know, in India, at least for a while, the Premier League has been one of the most, let's say, fashionable leagues to follow for most of the fans around here. And those fans, I was one of them. And I never really felt like supporting any club until I actually started playing football pretty seriously. And then it all came about because I had installed FIFA '09 or FIFA 10, I believe, and I liked the color blue for a really long time, and I really hadn't given any thought about which club to support, because supporting a club was not really a big thing for me back then, because I was just getting introduced to the whole concept of team sports and all of it. This is back in 2009, 2010. And while Amoga and I were all playing football near our house, we used to choose a few teams just to make us feel part of something bigger, while we would go out and play on the weekends in some grounds nearby. And at that time, I got introduced to watching football. The first match that I actually watched and I actually gave some importance to what was actually happening on the field was Everton versus Manchester United. And I knew that I liked the color blue, and I'd heard of how successful Manchester United as a club were at that point. And I did not and at least the way it works for me is that I don't really like to support clubs that are already winning. So I like to support clubs which are on the up, or have been trying, or the underdogs basically, so that I get the thrill of doing something that is not expected, uh, and supporting a club that has, who at that point did not have too many expectations, but they weren't really that bad. We all know about David Moyes' teams of Everton, probably. Uh, I would say that has been the most recently successful period. It's not really success because we have not really won anything, but that's basically how the journey began. And of course, the number of Everton fans in India, compared to the other clubs at least, it's pretty low, and it's very rare to find other Everton fans. And it's nice to get bullied by all the other more successful clubs. But I'll always say that I'm supporting a club even though I know that they may not win anything. And it's not that Everton shouldn't have ambition or we don't have ambition. I don't think that's the case, but it's just a personal preference for me. And very consequently, after I watched that game that I spoke about, Everton won 3-1, I believe, that game. And I was mighty impressed with that, knowing that there was definitely a skill difference between Manchester United and Everton at that point. And then I installed for 10, I think. And then from then on, I think it was I just chose Everton, and then I was able to have a glimpse at the entire squad. And then almost every time I used to choose Everton, and I'd always be excited about the transfer windows whenever they came in. And yeah, since then I think I delved deeper into Everton and understood, learned about the history of the club, to know that they are one of the founding members of the football league,
Yeah,
and the first to play at Anfield, and also to win a league at Anfield before Liverpool was even a club. So yeah, to know about all of it from back then, it was pretty revealing. And I also was able to connect with Everton fans from England. There are only Everton fans from England for the most part, I would say around 85% to 90%, and that's okay. I'm fine with that. But I did get to interact with them, and I was able to understand what opinions they had of their club, and the passion that they show towards their club. It was mighty impressive. And yeah, that's been my experience with Everton. However, now we do have a WhatsApp group for Indian Everton fans. We have around close to 75 to 80 people. I'm pretty sure.
that's
Yeah, I'm
amazing.
pretty sure also officially affiliated to the Everton Supporters Club worldwide through the official Everton, let's say, fan club organizations. And yeah, every year we do renew it. We are also actually planning to go to Goodison Park, maybe in the next year at some point. People from the group.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
that's a plan still. It's not, nothing is concrete so far, but yeah, we are all planning to go to Goodison Park one last time. This will be the final season.
Yeah,
And yeah,
absolutely.
so let's see how that works out. But of course, the last few years have been very difficult for all of us. We fight a lot in the groups amongst ourselves as to what is the right way ahead for Everton. And of course, I have my opinions, which are pretty strong as well. So yeah, we can get into that later on.
But that is amazing. Sudhanva, first, why it is amazing is because you're a very close friend of Amog, and that even though Evertons have had a lot of downs during the years, you've not been persuaded by Amog to choose another blue team as well, who have, if it gives you any solace, the two teams that we support, Man United and Chelsea, are also underdogs. So we're all sailing in the same boat. And I don't think we have the wavelength to bully you. So this is a very safe space for you to come and talk about Everton Football Club, but also for everybody watching this podcast as well. If you are an Everton fan, please get in touch with Sudhanva so that you can be added to the WhatsApp group by the Everton Supporters Club as well. And probably you can then hitch your travel plans to Goodison as well based on that. I hope through this podcast you get to meet a lot more Everton fans as well. And then who knows, probably 2, 3 years down the line, you're starting your own Desi Toffee TV or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not expecting a lot, but at the same time, I'm also happy about it because I don't want any glory hunters at the club. The ones that have been through thick and thin, those are the real fans, and I'd rather have connections with them. But of course, with the popularity, there will be more Everton fans across India.
You just called out United.
Absolutely. I think there's
You just called out United fans.
and also Chelsea fans. So no, but you would be surprised to them. I think you of all people should know that yes, success brings people together, but let me tell you, tough times bring people more closer together than success. I'm sure a lot of people watching this podcast will also be happy to know that Everton fans has a lot of presence in India, and then they would like to be a part of it. So let's come back to the start of the season, which has been quite an abomination for Everton because it's very sad as well, right? 4 losses and four in the Premier League, 13 goals conceded. But what is really hurting is that you've had 2-0 leads in the last two games and you've lost them 3-2, which is very uncharacteristic of a Sean Dyche team, which is always drilled defensively well. So, what is going wrong at Everton on the pitch? We'll come to off the pitch later, but on the pitch.
Okay, I don't think in this modern age of football, what Sean Dyche is putting out there is going to be sustainable. I think we'll still be able to survive this season, although that shouldn't really be a goal for a club the size of Everton. But coming to the pitch and what has been happening, I think the way Everton are set up, it's even the Everton fans are surprised when we score goals. I know we have scored goals this season, But for the most part, even we are surprised when we score goals. And at the beginning of the match, we have no idea where the goals are coming from. We don't know who to rely upon. We don't have a forward line, essentially. And the way Sean Dyche sets his teams up, he's counting on the opposition making some mistake. And I would say that's not really a great strategy to win football games, especially not in this age of football. And it also leads to a lot of, let's say, pressure on the defense. And with the defense having a lot of changes in personnel because of the injuries, I don't think it's a sustainable model to have 25 to 26% possession every game and then hoping that one of your players will be able to do some miracle at the top. And the thing is, with the 2-0 lead, I don't think even the Everton players are sure that they can hold on to it. And that is because they don't even know how they got there in the first place. All they know is how to defend. And when they have the lead, they don't know, they invite pressure upon themselves instead of playing more freely, I would say. But that's how Sean Dyche sets his teams up, and it's not easy. We still have Michael Keane playing for us. I don't quite understand how or why he's here despite these many years. He's one of the most disastrous defenders that I've ever seen, despite whatever his, let's say, in the beginning, at least when he was initially signed, it seemed like a very good transfer. He was coming in from Burnley, and that was a Sean Dyche Burnley. He was pretty decent for the first two seasons, but I think his mentality is pretty weak. I would hope that for his own career, he is able to revive himself, but not at the cost of Everton conceding 4 goals in 2 weeks. That's unacceptable. And when you see nervousness in one of the defenders, I think it unsettles the rest of the defense. And Pickford can only do as much as he can. I would say he is the best player at Everton right now, and he can only do as much given the defense. Sean Dyche had one tactic, that is to defend well, and he's not even picking the right personnel for it. He even plays Ashley Young and Michael Keane because Premier League experience. I would say experience of losing. So I don't know how that would play into a plan that would be a winning strategy for Everton. So there are a lot of things wrong. It's just limited by the ambition of the manager itself, I would believe. Uh, and when the manager doesn't show too much ambition, it translates down to the players. And I think that the confidence is really short right now. And I think those are the problems on the field. We don't have any creative midfielder. Sean Dyche teams rely on pressing the ball, pressing for the second balls and not the first balls. The forwards are required to be big, tall, and strong, basically a wall or a tree, of which you can bounce balls off, and then the entire midfield rushes to get the second ball. I don't think this is a very sustainable way of playing football at this age, and it's been quickly found out. There is a reason why even Jose Mourinho isn't able to do it, because it's somewhat similar. I wouldn't say the same. It's somewhat similar, and uh, with a lower caliber of players that Everton have right now, and the caliber of players is, it's not constant. It changes with managers. So as you see in Brighton, in the first season of Graham Potter, I don't think there were too many signings, but the way they played, it changed tremendously and it helped a lot of players. So it depends on the manager and how the manager wants the players to play. Of course, the players might have a ceiling as with respect to their capabilities and skills, but I don't think we are getting the best out of the current Everton team.
Some really salient points from what you said, Sudhanva, because as you rightly pointed out, defense is not anymore the best form of attack. And Sean Dyche is relying on his defense. And then it's almost the Everton players are surprised when they take a lead, whether they should continue to play that good football that they are doing, even though with the lack of possession, or they should revert back to defense. An interesting observation that I had in both these games, right? And Aston Villa, it's almost that at 2-0, they limited their chances going forward or they didn't take their chances. That is number one. And it was almost like they were defending for the result because they were quite surprised, like you said, about how they got there. And actually, when the score was 2-2, they then tried to play good football again to get them out of jail in order to secure the result. But that is what I think is the main problem, as you rightly pointed out with Sean Dyche as well. the vision for the club, the way of playing at Everton needs to evolve.
You mentioned Jose Mourinho. I can also reciprocate that when we had Jose as manager. So back in 2017, so that was the year where tactics, what Sean Dyche and Jose Mourinho used to do, got exposed. That's why we sacked Jose. Nowadays, the football depends on possession football and short passes, not long passes, and hopefully some tall defender comes and scores the goal. So that's a very rare case, like you mentioned. Now Jose also can't use his tactics or something. What Pep is using since 2016, the possession based or tiki taka. So since 2016, it's working in Premier League, and everyone are copying that nowadays. Arsenal hired his assistant, which was Arteta, and now we also hired Enzo Maresca, who was Pep assistant. So every club owners know these around ball. That's not a tactic which is working in Premier League. Yeah. So like you mentioned, that's a big problem which Everton need to adopt. So I think if you guys hire someone like Potter or someone who's known for possession base, which Brighton used under Potter, so I think there might be a change. What do you say?
That's a brilliant segue into the next question I also wanted to ask now. Do you think Sean Dyche is the right manager to take this team forward?
I would like to be proven wrong, but I don't think I will be. And that's what I say about most managers that come into Everton. It's not that I wish bad for Everton, but in the long run, I just don't see it. He is capable of putting out fires, but if the ambition is to only put out fires, it's not a sustainable thing to keep putting out fires in the long run. At some point, you won't be able to do it. And we have seen clubs that have gone down and have not come up. We've seen Sunderland go down, we have seen Portsmouth go down. They've not come up for a really long time. I don't think aiming for mediocrity is what is needed. And Sean Dyche, the way he speaks, the way he responds to questions in his press conference, I see no confidence in him to take us to the next level. I would be perfectly fine if he was trying out something new, if he was trying to be more bold, more aggressive, more positive, more forward thinking, but I just don't see it. Every game, it's just a low block. My prediction at the beginning of the season was that he would be gone by October. And at the beginning of the season, we did have a takeover in place. So I'd assume that since the takeover would be in place, the sacking of the manager would be much more easier. But since then, multiple takeover talks have fallen, and we'll have to see when the new takeover happens and when Sean Dyche will get his sack. In fact, I'm at this point for the future of Everton. Every game with him in charge is one game away from getting the right manager. I'd rather take more losses to get him fired faster than him stay here for two more wins and then we go on another 5 game losing streak, and then those 2 games are what keeps him afloat. Yeah, I don't want that to happen to Everton. I want us to get out of this as soon as possible.
I think you guys have considered 13 goals, right? The whole four matches. Branthwaite has not played since then. What do you think about absence of Branthwaite?
It definitely impacts the way Sean Dyche plays football. The result of Branthwaite being injured is having to introduce Michael Keane, which is disastrous for any Premier League football club. Branthwaite had a fantastic season. I was happy that we were able to keep him for another season. I hope he stays for longer, but we'll have to see because he is one of top prospects in England, and I'm pretty sure there will be a lot of interest for him from probably better run clubs and more successful clubs at the moment. His awareness as a defender for his age is pretty, I would say, and he's a left-footed defender, which is very useful because having right-footed defenders as your center backs, it creates certain problems to distribute the ball. And he's tall, strong, and he's pretty quick for his size as well. I'm really glad that he's still here, but uh, I don't know. Maybe it's all working out for us because he's injured and we are losing games, and we're probably getting closer to the Dyche sack. And he'll be back by the time a new manager comes in, and he can help us out then. Of course, I wouldn't want Everton to get relegated, obviously, and I see that happening if Dyche will stay in charge. But yeah, that's the effect of missing out on one defender right now.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think missing out on one defender, as much as Brandt has been amazing, should not be the cause for all of the other problems on the pitch. Just one question also for you, Sudhanva. So you are pretty certain that the best way going forward is a Sean Dyche sack coming rather quickly rather than coming later in the season. Do you, from the available pool of managers, already have an inkling towards a particular manager? Also, with the current situation at Everton and the ambition of Everton, also this being a very special season, the last season at Goodison Park, have an inkling towards a particular manager?
I would just want Everton to show some courage and ambition and not hire managers who are just there to put out fires. So, as a club, if you have to grow, you need to have a manager who would want to grow with the club. I'm not wishing for managers to stay here forever. I understand that they can use Everton as a stepping stone, but while they're using Everton as a stepping stone, Everton are also stepping up. I'm fine with actually any manager who in this modern age of football is able to be competitive with a club as big as Everton. And I would say the squad quality is not too bad.
Absolutely.
Definitely not worthy to be in the position that they are in right now. See, Graham Potter, as suggested a few minutes ago, it's the kind of manager that I would want. I'm not saying that I exactly want Graham Potter, but if Everton are able to scout for another manager who has the same level of ambition, who has the same level of courage and footballing intelligence that can work in this modern age, I'll be very happy. Of course, I have a few options in mind.
Yeah, go for it. If you had a wish list, Sudhanva, top three managers and in that order, a wish list. The Everton are not going to hire of what you
Yeah.
said, so feel free.
Graham Potter sounds like a good option. I don't know if I actually wanted Pochettino, and I thought it would be the right project for Pochettino as well, given what he had done at Southampton. Because I don't look at what they've done at top clubs, but at clubs which are growing. I want managers who have worked at clubs which are growing and which are trying to step up. Potter sounds like a good option to at least get us out of probably 16th to 18th finishes and probably into at least the top half, which is again for a club as big as Everton, not really a great season. I don't know if Niko Kovac is available. I was a huge fan of Niko Kovac, and I was a huge fan of De Zerbi. Sadly, De Zerbi is now no longer available. Pochettino also got locked up with the US national team, I believe.
Correct.
And I do believe Thomas Tuchel is available, but I think he wouldn't come to Everton at this point. It would be too ambitious. But that's the point. Any sort of ambition is delusional at the beginning, but we have to try nevertheless. If you don't try, you might never get it. And it's not like Everton cannot afford the wages of Thomas Tuchel because they were able to afford the wages of Carlo Ancelotti, who is probably one of the most celebrated managers. So it's not about the money, it's about the project. They should make the project sound interesting. And right now, the caliber of managers that we're able to attract is Sean Dyche and Frank Lampard. I would really want managers who are more invested in the project rather than putting out fires and surviving. Surviving is not living. So, yeah, that's what I would want.
Some very deep words spoken by Sudhanva here.
About transfer targets, you guys signed Armando Broa from Chelsea, who is still injured. I think he is yet to play. As you wanted a tall striker, we have given you a tall striker. I think it's a loan plus option to buy for 30 million or something. I definitely know that you guys won't buy him permanent because 30 million is too much, and he's not a 30 million player also. He gets injured very recurringly. I think he's back next month or something. So I hope he will be a competition for you guys with for DCL, who is a star striker for you guys.
And also constantly injured as well, unfortunately.
Yeah.
To be honest, when I think about it, I don't think we have any strikers at Everton right now. I don't consider DCL a striker. He's a tree or a wall. So I don't rate him highly at all. He had one successful season under Carlo, and that's it. And even in that season, the chances he would score would be put on a plate for him. We had James and Sigurdsson at that point, so we had some creativity going forward, and that's something that we don't have right now. All we have is Dwight McNeil and James Garner. which is a huge drop in quality compared to what Hamas and Dinya and Sigurdsson were offering at that time. And obviously, because of that, his goal scoring numbers have drastically decreased. His one main strength is his heading abilities, and he's pretty good at it. And it's very limited. I would want him as a second or third striker at Everton, but definitely not the first striker at Everton. And with Broha coming in, I've seen him play. I've actually wanted him at the club. We also sold Neil Maupay, who's not really a great striker, but it's fun to have him in the team. And with Broha coming in, and if he is able to play, I don't know if Sean Dyche will let him play, and that's why I'm hoping that Sean Dyche isn't there by the time all of these players are back. Uh, I'm hoping that we have a new style, new identity, and we can kick on from there.
Yeah, I really do hope for all of your Everton fans' sake as well. Sudhan, but then an overall impression of the transfer window. Are you happy about the incomings? Were you sad to see Onana leave? And finally, who were you most excited to sign?
I'm really impressed with. I don't know how to spell his name. We just call him Irok Bunam, right? I've really been impressed by his performances, and he's really aggressive. He's pretty good on the ball, and he runs around a lot. And I don't think we even got a lot of that from when he was here. Of course, it's sad to see Onana leave, but we made a pretty decent profit on him, so I'm not too concerned of him leaving because we were able to replace him pretty well. I just hope that signings like these, the average age of the Everton squad has come down, and that's really good for us because younger teams are more profitable in the future and also less prone to injuries. However, we can disagree upon that as well because that depends on the players. But on a general note, I would say that the younger the squad is, the more active that they could be. And overall, I think this transfer season was pretty good. We got in our transfers early. There was a clear plan and structure to the kind of signings that we were trying to make. Even then, I was not a huge fan of Dyche staying on, but I don't feel like they were proper Sean Dyche signings. They were more for the club for the longer run. India is also a pretty raw talent. He's pretty quick. He is pretty decent on the ball. But I think for a lot of these players to directly step into the first team would be a step too much for them because they are still younger players. And if there were some senior players already playing in that position who are established, I believe that it would be much more easier for them to get onboarded onto those roles. But right now, it's everyone's running on adrenaline more than a plan. And I think overall, I think compared to last season, we have a much better squad despite losing Onana, which I would say is the only proper loss because we have Jack Harrison back. Our wings are not that bad. Our midfield is pretty decent. Of course, the striker department is lacking. And over the years, Everton have always had amazing fullbacks: Leighton Baines, Luca Digne, Seamus Coleman. Sadly, we have not been able to replace our fullbacks since Luca Digne, and that's a huge concern because we have Mikolenko right now, who is defensively pretty solid, but there's a lot for him to learn going forward and contributing to the attack. And the way Everton have played over the years, we have always had amazing fullbacks, and our fullbacks always overlap and deliver whatever needs to be delivered for the strikers. And I think that has been a huge miss over the last few years because right now it looks like our fullbacks don't overlap that much. It's more of a flat back four without any movement from the fullbacks. And I think that has been a huge problem for Everton. I think ever since Marco Silva left, I think that has been a huge problem because I think that was one of the last years where we had Leighton Baines, Luca Digne, and Seamus Coleman, who are, I would say, like they are definitely among the top five best fullbacks in the league, at least in their time. Yeah, that has been a huge problem for Everton. And I think the fullback area, the striker, and probably a few playmakers is what Everton are missing right now. And I don't know if the January window will help us out, but we have to make do with what we have. But despite all of it, compared to last season, I think we are in a much better shape. And the results being this bad is purely down to team selection and the tactics being employed by Sean Dyche.
Thank you so much, Sudhanva, for that brilliant insights. Amog, have you heard anything on the positions that Sudhanva spoke about? So there's fullbacks, creative players, and then the strikers. Are Everton already looking at someone, or did they look at someone during the summer transfer window that they couldn't get? Any insights?
I think they
from
wanted for the replacement of Onana. Apart from that, they always wanted a striker. Uh, they tried Broya first, but they couldn't. And then, in the end of the window, they panicked and they called Chelsea and they asked for loan. Actually, Broya was traveling to Ipswich, but stalled. And then there were rumors that he failed medical or something, as he is now injured. But Everton always wanted a striker. Apart from striker, I think they did a good replacement with all the signings which they made. They need to sign a fullback, right back to replace Coleman, who is still playing since 10, 12 years. Since I know Sudhanva, he's playing.
any players who can replace Coleman coming from the academy. I saw Dixon playing there. Sometimes Garner as well. I know Garner, it's not his position, but Dixon, any early thoughts on his play?
It's too early to say how he'll fit in, and Sean Dyche doesn't even give a lot of chance to youngsters. It's hard to say if he's going to be a replacement for Coleman. We really lucked out on Coleman. We just paid 60 grand for Seamus Coleman, and I think he's been one of the ambassadors for Everton at least. No, I don't think we have been able to replace the right back spot. But yeah, right back is a very difficult slot to play. Garner, I don't think that's his spot. Garner is a proper central midfielder. He can play box to box. It is just that players are moving all around just to fit into Dyche systems, which are very solid, and there is very little fluidity available in these kind of systems. Yeah, I think right back we need to get a replacement as soon as possible. I think it's priority one.
Yeah, I really hope you can get. I know it's very difficult to get someone of the ilk of Seamus Coleman, who's not just an ambassador of the club, but a warrior and a captain. But then I really hope that you luck out, in at least in January, to get a decent right back. Anything to make sure that Ashley Young doesn't play many minutes this season, I would say.
Yeah.
Move on to the stadium. There's a lot of talk about the stadium, also because, as you correctly pointed out, this is Everton's last season at Goodison Park. Everton have never been relegated from the Premier League. Goodison Park is a mecca of sorts. The amount of history it holds, it's one of the oldest stadiums in the English Premier League. And then, with the current financial situation that you're in, also moving to Bromley Moor Dock, which I saw some videos as well, looks mighty impressive. But then the last thing you want to do is make sure that you give the best farewell that Goodison Park deserves, or you don't end up playing championship at Bromley Moor Park, right? So
Yeah, as far as I've known, and as far as anyone has known Everton, they know how strong Everton used to be in their home matches. The support is amazing. The crowd is actually pretty close to the players. There's a lot of pressure on the away team. And we have had a pretty successful home form, not this season or the previous, but in general, when things were all right at Everton, at least our home form was pretty good. And that's where you would get the bulk of our points. And I think uh, leaving Goodison Park will be a huge miss, not just to Everton fans, but to almost all clubs that have been visiting Everton. But I think Bramley Moor Dock is the right way ahead. I would have wanted Farhad Moshiri to fix the squad before jumping onto a project as big as the construction of Bramley Moor Dock. But I've always felt like Farhad Moshiri is sort of a Hollywood owner. He wants big names compared to the right names. And sometimes they are not the same things. And as we have seen, his strategies have not really totally worked out. And I just hope, as you said, that we don't miss out on Premier League football just as soon as the new stadium comes in, because I think that would put a lot of financial stress on the club, and Everton might go into administration, which is very dangerous for a club as big as Everton. Uh, Given all the point deductions that we've had over the last season, it's pretty vital that we stay. As you said, there are two strong reasons to have a good final home season, and I hope we get to that stage sooner rather than later.
absolutely, I really hope as well, because a club of the size of Everton, it would be heartbreaking to see it go into administration. We don't want that to happen. But then a nice segue as well into Farhad Moshiri. Everton fans and also fans of other clubs have more than on one occasions expressed their displeasure on how Farhad Moshiri runs the club. And people were enthused when they saw the Friedkin Group take over during July. But unfortunately, that collapsed, leaving Farhad Moshiri still owns with the ownership model 94% of Everton. Do you still see that changing? Do you see Moshiri selling his shares or a takeover happening sooner than later? Also, that now you moving into the new stadium, it requires new funding, new vision as well. So, any insights into that?
Yeah, I think like Farhad Moshiri has, it's not for the lack of intention from Farhad Moshiri, but I've always felt like he's looked at Everton as a Hollywood project. He knew that our local rivals, Liverpool, had a pretty famous and popular manager with Jurgen Klopp, and he wanted another popular manager and that is why he waited it out to get Carlo Ancelotti without thinking whether Carlo would stay here for the long run. And when Madrid come calling, I don't think anyone would reject that. So I don't think he thinks it through. I feel like he does want the best for Everton, but in his own way, and his way has not been the right way at all. And sometimes it's not what you want, but what you need. And I don't think he listens to what Everton needs. He just acts on what he wants. And right now, he just wants out of the club. He's tired. He knows that he has messed it up. And I don't think Everton have been in such a bad state for quite some time. And with his investment, at least in the beginning, everyone felt that Everton were headed in the right direction. Because I used to remember before Farad, we had Bill Kenwright, who everyone knew was a huge Everton fan, but he had limited funds. And with the takeover of Farhad Moshiri, we believed that it would bring in a lot of money, and he did. But the signings that were made under his reign and the managers that were appointed, I think we were in the right direction with the signings of Marco Silva, probably Ronald Koeman as well.
Yeah.
But we quickly moved away, mainly due to panic. And we hired managers like Sam Allardyce, Rafa Benitez, Sean Dyche, Frank Lampard, and all of these sound panic appointments. And panic is not what you want. And you need to use your brain rather than your heart to bring a club upwards. And I think he has also lost a lot of money on this club. It's not that he hasn't invested. As I said, it's not for the lack of intention, but I don't think there is a proper structure. We had a director of football called Marcel Brands a few seasons ago, who actually was amazing for his previous Dutch club. And so many of the signings that he had suggested, they were rejected by Farhad Moshiri because it didn't fit into Farhad's Hollywood plan, where there are some popular players at Everton. So I think he felt everything was almost coming together with Carlo in that 2019 or 2020-2021 season. But I think it quickly fell apart because it was not a sustainable solution. So I think a takeover is due for Everton, although I'm very sad to see that his efforts didn't pay off. But yeah, the club has to move on from this, and even he's looking to move on. He's pretty old as well, Farad, and he wouldn't want this on his head anymore, because it also comes with a lot of emotions that fans carry towards the club. And I think he is mindful of it, and he wouldn't want to disappoint the Everton fans anymore. I'm not happy, I would say. I'm grateful for what he has done, but it really is time for him to sell, and he is looking to sell. Any new owners with a proper mindset and an ambition for the club can definitely bring us out of this hole. Yeah, let's hope that we get there.
Yeah, I really hope that Farhad Moshiri does not look at it as a legacy issue or something, because let's put it this way, the club has been absolutely mismanaged. 400 million was the loss that was recorded between 2019 and 2023, thus leading to the points being docked. So I think nothing is bigger than the club, they say, and Everton would be much, much better off if there were a takeover to happen. And I really hope that is coming soon as well. Then finally, before we wrap up, Everton are going to be kicking off against Leicester soon. What do you want to see in that game, and what is your score prediction for that game?
Yeah, as I've said before, sooner we sack Dyche, the better. But I really hope that it's going to be a miracle if he's able to change his mind on how Everton should play. And I don't see it happening. I would love to be proven wrong, as I said in the beginning, but I don't think I will be. I would say a 2-1 win for Leicester. which
Wow.
would not impact our goal difference that much, but is still a loss, which is, I would say, at this time, a step in the right direction instead of a step in the wrong direction. But that all of this depends on how keen we are to sack Sean Dyche. But if the situation becomes untenable, I think it will be time for him to leave, irrespective of the takeover. Yeah, it's a bittersweet thing to wish for, but I think in the long run, it'll be much better for the club.
I know how difficult it must be for those words to come out of your mouth, but sometimes you have to fall down in order to get up. And I really hope for your sake that the Shondash sack, as you wished for, happens, or Everton just magically turn everything around and then start getting results after results, and then everything is well with the world. The only thing that we all want for Everton, with such a big club, so much history, is to have one proper farewell for Goodison Park. That is all what we want. That is all we have for this episode as well. Thank you so much, Sudhanva. You've been absolutely brilliant for joining us on the pod and sharing your thoughts about Everton with us. It has been extremely lovely to have you with us, and we wish to see you many times during this season with more good news. And hopefully, Everton are doing well, and we'd love to have you back on the channel many
Yeah.
times.
Thank you so much. I have a lot of opinions and feelings towards Everton because I've just been supporting them for so long, and this is a nice platform for me to pour it out. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you again.
No worries, Sudhanva. You can find Sudhanva's socials in the description. We'll also get him to share the link to the WhatsApp group for the Everton fans who wants to join. You can find all of that in the description. As I always said, please do share and subscribe to our content on Corner Football Pod. So until then, take care, be safe, and be aware of any corners taken quickly. Thank you all. See you. Bye.